I'm calling this meeting to order. Darlene Ashkenab, the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee for Monday, April 19th, 2021. So we're just waiting for a couple of people, I guess. So I'll call the meeting to order. And then number 2, we shall have the land acknowledgement by Mayor Doug Lawrence.
Thanks, Chair Darlene. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on in the area of Treaty 3 on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation. I'd like to acknowledge the Chief Bull is with us, and that many of the communities and people we serve come from Treaties 5 and 9, as well as Treaty 3. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have Michelle on behalf of the town. Let's see, we have Joyce, Eileen, I see Mayor Doug. I saw, I don't know who the Aspire person is. I'm not sure about that one.
That's Victor, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, Aspire. And then there's Chief Bull, welcome, and Candace. And it says Sunny Jim, but I know you're a different name.
Mario.
Mario. Okay, Mario. Sorry. And then
That's
we have
okay.
Lynn. Lynn must be on the phone. So good evening, Lynn.
She's just connecting now.
Okay, great. We have mostly everybody here. Okay. All right. So we'll just go on to number 3 now with the agenda. 3A is introduction of amendments to the agenda. So are there any amendments? Anybody? I can't see. I can't tell who's. Maybe I need to change my view. Okay, there, that's better. No amendments?
Oh,
Okay.
just one. Are we being recorded, by the way?
Yes, it's live.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll go to 3B, which is confirmation of the agenda. Who wants to move it? Mover, seconder.
Yeah, I can move. It's Candace.
Candace will move and Eileen will second. Okay. So we'll move on to number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest.
There are none.
None? Okay, good. Number 5, adoption of minutes. The minutes from March 15, 2021. So are there any? Nothing, no comments? Okay, I guess we need to make a motion to adopt the minutes from March 15, 2021. So we need mover again.
I can. It's Candace.
Candace will move. Anybody wants to second? Joyce? Okay, thank you, Joyce. Okay. And then, all right, so that's that. And then number 6, business arising from the minutes. Is there anything that was arising from the last meeting? Sioux flag, I'm just gonna read the work plan, the committee logo. Nothing? Yes.
Through you, Chair Darlene, we reached out to Kelly to have the logo sent to us so that we could scan it and send it out to the committee, but we were unsuccessful. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll have it for the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll just defer that to the next meeting then. Okay. Any other comments? Nothing? Okay. All right, so we'll move then to number 7, item, delegations, presentations, committee presentations. So there's nothing, I see. So we'll move on quickly
I just
to,
have,
pardon?
I have a comment about committees.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yes.
we were slated to meet on April 15th last week
mhm,
and to talk about the name changes for the area.
okay,
And we had some unfortunate occurrences in our community. One of the council members, Stan Littleyer, lost his son.
well,
He was only 33, and we're expecting to have a funeral this week, hopefully sometime. So we canceled the meeting, so we're going to reschedule that committee meeting to another date.
okay,
If I may just update the committee, we sent out a new date for May 6th for the subcommittee.
Okay, that's good.
May 6th subcommittee, okay.
And we were supposed to have the meeting last week. It was rescheduled for last week, but unfortunately something came up at the municipality as well. So we had to reschedule again. So it's on May 6th.
Okay. All right. Anything else? No? Okay. All right, now for number 8, items for discussion. We have the workshop funding update regarding the National Indian Brotherhood Trust Fund. Michelle LaRose.
So just to update the committee, you see attached to the agenda the application that went in for funding for the workshops that Lynn had brought up. Unfortunately, our funding application was not successful for the workshop, so we were denied funding. I don't know if Lynn may want to comment or at this point, but
Okay.
that's the gist of the information.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, like we tried and that's all we can do. But as an update on my in my work plan at work,
Mhm.
in my work plan at work, I was able to secure a contract with RTS with Returning to Spirit for the Indigenous foundational workshop. So my next step there is to look at a community to host the RTS. Yeah. So that's good news. At least we'll get that done.
All right. Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, question? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Lynn, would that be it'd be pretty much along the same lines as the other program that we were seeking?
No, the one that we were seeking was a 1-day Seeds to Reconciliation. This one is a full 4.5 days of workshop. Yeah, it's a full one. It's a big program.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Eileen.
What was the amount that was being asked from the NIB?
It's been some time. Tiffany or Lynn, do you have that amount handy?
I don't.
Tiffany may.
Sorry, through you, Chair. It was 20,000 that was being asked.
Oh,
Okay.
I was going to suggest that sometimes the United Church has funding for workshops and things like that, but not not 20,000. We might scrape 3 or 4, but
Yeah, the workshop doesn't cost that much. What in the proposal, what I included was the cost of like rental of a hall, catering, that sort of thing. I can't remember what with the Returning to Spirit quoted us for that 1 day. event, and I think they are working on a virtual delivery of the seeds. So it, it might be lower, but I'm thinking it wasn't even 5,000 for
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just looking back to see if I can find the application. Anyway, let you and I could. Oh, here we are. No. Yeah. 1 day seed thing. 2,500.
That's
Yeah, I knew wasn't that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean that I could look into seeing if there's any current funding through the United Church, if you like, and report back to the next meeting.
okay, Eileen, thanks. I
Yeah.
know the United and Anglican Church also has some kind of funding as well.
Yeah, so I could talk to Muriel and Bill Morris about that. And I mean, if it were to be an in-person, well, of course, if it was an in-person thing, then the trainer we need to provide accommodation and stuff like that.
Travel.
Because in terms of hall rental, it could just be at the United Church, and the United Church could donate that space for free, she says, laughing happily. Well, I'm sure they would. Anyway, well, I'll like do some exploring with any United Church, United.
Everybody heard it. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good. Well, we can still probably have it sometime, so that's good news. Any other comments on that? 8A? No. Okay, we'll move on to 8B then. Updates on various projects that the committee is undertaking. Joyce Timpson. Any
Oh,
update?
no, I was just saying that's what I would like to hear at this meeting,
Oh,
is updates from all the committees. So we just had one update, yeah,
yeah.
that was all, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Could we look at the work plan and look at each bit and say, okay, where are we at? Where do we need to do some work?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too.
I have a short update if anybody wants to hear it regarding our name change committee. Garnet, me, and Renee and others that are on it. I think there's other people on it. I was able to locate a map that had all the names of First Nations places that were of significance, where people did their traditional activities and whether they fished, hunted, or camped or harvested. And we were specifically looking at Frog Rapids. And indeed, there was a name for Frog Rapids. It was actually called Makki, which means frog. So that was the traditional name, Makki Pautik, Makki Rapids. So I think that was one of the names we were looking at changing. And we couldn't get the map. I think, Michelle, I dropped the map off, but
Yeah,
I snuck into the municipal office one day and I put the maps beside the mayor's door.
yeah, we found them.
Okay. But we couldn't do anything. We couldn't get them printed because the border was so thick, or the paper was not printable.
Yeah, it was
right?
on cardboard, and this dimensions. We tried to go to KA to get it done there, and also our Public Works department. But the our Public Works Department couldn't do it, and neither could Kay because it was on cardboard. It can't be put through the machine or whatever to copy it. So what we did is Tiffany did her best efforts to take pictures of it, and she did not a bad job. So that's going to be coming up at our next committee meeting. So everybody will have the map as part of our agenda.
The
Okay.
other thing I noticed too was that I was just looking at news in the area. I noticed that Dryden is taking the same approach. I'm not sure who's on the committee there, but they were looking specifically at Colonization Avenue,
Mhm,
changing it to something more appropriate for the times, I guess.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor.
Just, Michelle, M&R, I know has quite a capacity for reproducing large maps and charts. I don't know whether they can actually scan it though, but it might be worthwhile to ask about M&R's capacity to do that.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Tiffany checked with M&R. Did you check with M&R, Tiff?
Through you, Chair. Yes, I checked with M&R, and they have very limited staff at their building right now. So I called them about 4 times and nobody returned my call because they have very limited staff right now in the building.
So they may have the technical capacity. Another agency, and again, might be this is Kuwaitan. They do a lot of printing, copying. Just they have quite a bit of high-end equipment down there. Just a thought.
Okay, we'll follow up on those. Thank you.
Anybody else about these maps?
Well, just to finish off, our task was to look at changing the name of that area where Makakuyupautik is, Umperville Park, I guess.
Yeah.
In that area, and we wanted to look at the history of Umperville as well, who he was as a person, and we got some information regarding that, and that'll come up in the next report.
Okay. All right. Okay, good update.
Chair, Aileen would like to.
Oh, hi.
This is a question for you, Chief Bull. So the name, the local name is it Frog Rapids or Frog or just Frogs?
Frog Rapids.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. Frog Rapids Park, here we come.
So it was always called Frog Rapids traditionally. They changed the name to reflect Western language, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Okay, so what else should be on here?
Then the other thing we might consider too, when you talk about, is it called Umperville Park?
Yeah.
Should we be calling it Frog Park?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes. Why
No.
not?
I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
That's for the subcommittee to come up with suggestions.
We might think of a better name, I think.
You have to wonder what kind of frogs are managing to live on the edge of the rapids.
Maybe we should call it bullfrog.
Okay, Mario had something.
The only comment I have to make is I drove by there the other day and I don't see any signs on the highway indicating that the park is even there. And I was wondering if that's something that we can approach MTO or the M&R through their geographical department, whether they would erect signs that on the highway indicating, and that way more people would become familiar with the name of the park. Because if you're going to change it and there's no indication that there is a change, it would be nice to have. That's the only thing that I have to say.
Okay.
I agree, because I think a lot of people drive by not realizing that there's a place you can stop and have a picnic and rest. And
Okay. Eileen, yes.
I'm not sure whether they took it down when they were doing the renovations, but
Mm.
what they did have on the highway was the standard sort of rest stop sign with a picnic table and an arrow. But I don't recall ever seeing the name there, so that would be easy enough to get a new sign with a new name.
You can see the silicon sign really well there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that needs to have something added to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so then that's that one. That
Can I say
update.
one more thing?
Yes, Mario.
Just as a side, it has nothing to do with Umferville Park or anything like that, but I was wondering like if we had any other ideas. I've been looking at Iron Bridge, and I'm thinking, well, the CNR called it Iron Bridge for one reason. It's made out of iron. Maybe it would be good for publicity for CNR if we were to discuss it with them, and they may want to add to it, or change the name, or it's just a suggestion, that's all.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about iron, we call it, correct me for those that are on the call here, they call it Biwapik. Would that be right? First Nations, would that be right?
I don't know.
think so.
I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you, honestly.
Biwapik Bridge, we would call it. We were to change the name as well.
Yes, Mayor.
I'm guessing that that narrow passage of water has a name too, that probably some rapids or something like Frog Rapids. Under the water that flows under the Iron Bridge would probably have an original name too, place name.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
If we want to go back before the iron.
Even Sioux Mountain. They
Sioux
must have a name. They
Let's
must have
say,
a name for,
A different name.
yeah.
I mean, also too, it doesn't have to be either or. There could be a way of combining all the names. If like say Iron Bridge, we could use the Ojibwe for Biwabik, was it? And then
Yeah.
Biwabik, and then the name of the rapids as they were before, or you could combine them all somehow without changing a name specifically. You could meld them together in a sense. That's just my thought on that.
Okay. All right.
So can I add something to that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I lived in North Wales for 2 years back in the late 60s, and the brief history is that England conquered Wales in the 1300s and outlawed the speaking of Welsh. Anyway, in the sort of mid 50s, the Welsh people were very progressively reclaiming their language. And when I was in North Wales, they were adding Welsh names to the English names. So that was just, it was a kind of useful way of kind of reclaiming the language and the traditions. So they were adding the names in Welsh. And then actually while I was there was a bit of a revolution. So people were going around with paint and painting out the English signs, which was, well, it was kind of interesting. I think that was in protest to the inauguration of the Prince of Charles as the Prince of Wales, which happened while I was there. And there were a few people who were somewhat up in arms about that. Anyway, but just it seemed a good idea to be adding. And the same in Scotland, because again, Gaelic, the language of the islands and highlands, that was also outlawed back in the 1700s. And in the last few decades, most of the areas have been adding in the Gaelic names to the anglicized names.
All right. All right, okay, that's it for the comments, for the updates on the names. Okay, so maybe we'll just follow whatever's on here for the updates. The first thing we have there is the Northway Section 1 Cemetery event, memorialization event. Any updates on that? Yes, Michelle?
And so staff are meeting this week to kick off the organization of the memorial.
Okay,
So we'll be reporting back to committee next month.
next month, okay.
I was gonna say,
All right, Joyce.
on somebody on Facebook was asking about the graves that are just past the Iron Bridge, where the train goes by. There's a grave site. There's a cemetery there. I think a lot older than even the Northway one. And so, people were asking questions, and they asked about the mass. They heard that there are mass graves and all that sort of thing. And so I piped in and I said, yes, in the northeast side of the Northway Cemetery, and that we were looking at how to commemorate the people there. And anyway, there are actually some really positive responses to when I said that. People seemed really interested. Somebody said, wow, that's amazing, stuff like that. So people are interested.
It's good. Okay. Anybody else on that? Okay. So next month we'll have more to go on with the memorialization and the Facebook public interest, and maybe we can add or look at that. Didn't Brian have information about some of the cemetery over there that way?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did have. And then a family went over. Or people sometimes go and clean it up, and they did put a rock and a plaque there about 20 years ago, I guess. And I don't think there were any Indigenous people there. I think it was like early 1900s sort of thing.
Mhm.
And I think I think they did find out some of the names. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whether that, I don't even know if the town would have them, because it wasn't officially a town back then. It was just, settlers here. So
I know a group of people went there, including municipal employees, back in 1998. It was named as Sioux first cemetery. Burials are all before 1918, so you're correct. It is older than Northway Cemetery. And I know a group of people, they jumped in boats and stuff like that. They went over there and they had a ceremony over there, and it was actually nice.
And a man named George Kendall, they ended up naming it after him because he did a lot of work on finding the names, I think. So.
Okay.
What about, the railroad workers that built the railroad? I would imagine they had camps along the railroad, and people obviously would have, some of them, unfortunately, might have passed on or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. I don't know.
Because I had a guy up here that came to the funeral. He was from Dryden, Eagle Lake Reserve, and he came to my mom's funeral, and his name is Leonard Sky. And he said, you know, I was walking down the railroad track. This is, of course, the other CP rail down by Dryden. He was walking along there when he was a youth. And he found this can sticking out of the ground, and he kicked it. And all of these coins were inside this can. They were dating back to 1886 and around that era.
Wow.
A bunch of coins. Somebody there might have been his payroll or somebody's money that he hid and never came back. And he showed me the coin. He showed me the coins. Kind of very interesting.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, there's a lot of history with that railroads that came up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, anyway, so the next item, the next square is about developing the relationship with Nishnabegamic Friendship Center. Any comments on that? Yes, Michelle?
I had met with Jennifer Thomas from the Anishinaabe Aski Friendship Center. We talked about different initiatives that we could embark on. The first one we talked about was having a community powwow and somehow incorporating that possibly with our Northway memorialization and having like a community feast at the same time. She was to go back to her board of directors and find out if they were interested in moving forward with this joint venture. And I haven't heard from her, so I have to follow up.
Okay. Feast, okay. So that's that with the Friendship Center. That's good. Review of municipal policies through a cultural lens. Any movement or anything there to update on?
Hi, Darlene.
Yes.
I want to suggest, is it possible for this committee to make a checklist or matrix that, so when there's a new policy made or a revised policy comes up, we can, like the town can compare it with our checklist, and if it triggers like a review from us, do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
Is there some way we can make that up?
Well, I guess they could be a process, eh?
Yeah, just so like if there's any new policy, or if they're changing any policy, they can go over it and compare it. And if it triggers a review from us, do you know what I mean? Something where it can just be in a process that they can automatically do.
Okay. Would we have to look at our mandate and our own policies within the committee for to do that?
Don't we have something? I raised this a few meetings ago somewhere, and don't we have something that all policies will be looked at through a cultural lens, Michelle?
Yeah, that was discussed at council, and I believe a resolution was passed some time ago that when formulating new policies, that council has to look through it through a cultural lens to make sure that it fits in with our truth and reconciliation initiatives.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just thinking because of the trespassing policy,
Mhm.
that just because it might not seem like culturally related to this committee, but it was in the end. There's some way we can make it easier to trigger that review.
The trespass policy was reviewed by the TRC committee, I
Yeah.
believe in 2019, and it did go back to council for revisions.
Okay.
And council adopted those revisions and amended the policy.
Yes, Eileen?
So I think I joined this committee kind of after that work had begun. So has this committee looked through all of the policies and flagged ones that might need some discussion?
Yes, yes, we did.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I think we pulled out three of them, and we did make the alterations.
So the trespass and then the public art was one.
Yeah, I can't remember what the third one was.
It had to
do with cemeteries.
That was before, but yeah, there was an issue with the cemeteries. And maybe just to elaborate, for the rest of the people, like, for example, the cemeteries was an example that only metal or concrete stones would be permitted to mark the grave. Well, a lot of people from the north who live here like to erect a wooden cross. And so we were able to change that. I mean, it was a thing that nobody really thought about when the policy was made, didn't realize how it might affect certain cultures, for example. And so we were able to change that to permit wooden crosses, and there were some standards for the wooden crosses. So that was a fairly straightforward one. What else did we do?
This public arts policy?
Public arts, yeah.
That was reviewed and updated.
Yeah, we updated that one. And just an example that if we were thinking of indigenous, a particular cultural type of art, we would have somebody from that culture advise it on the committee, sort of the committee that decided on it. So
Mario, yes.
To make a comment, the reason why the idea of only using concrete or metal for headstones was a recommendation from the Ontario Registrar for the reason of Shinwalk, where they had 120 graves, that they were all marked by wooden crosses. And today, all those wooden crosses have deteriorated, and there is no longer a record. So it's all gone. So that is why the municipality initially put in that recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, and when they did change that policy, I think they required that it had to be preserved wood so that they would last, because most of them out at the Hillcrest Cemetery there, they've deteriorated, and so hopefully the preserved wood will last longer and so on. Anyway.
Okay. And then I think in Dryden, didn't they have the issue with having like a little wooden structure built over the grave? And they had to accommodate the people, Indigenous people, about that. And I think up north they might have little fenced off little areas that they put, but they keep it clean. They go there and they clean the area every year or during the year. Yeah. So yeah.
So Candace, those are examples of the policies that we looked at, but you could look at almost every policy and ask the same question. I mean, I raised, when we were doing the procedure bylaw, I raised the fact that some of our procedures are really foreign, not just to Indigenous people, but they're foreign to us. They're foreign to women. There's almost everything we do, we could say it should be looked at through a cultural lens, but we have to be willing to, expand our notion of what we mean by culture and be more sensitive to the fact that a lot of the things we do, they don't even fit us sometimes, to be honest. I don't know how they're going to fit anybody who's wanting to be part of it, that stuff. So anyhow,
Okay. Any other comments about that? All right.
Yeah, I just want to comment on what happened when I was in Wajishkanigami. I was out there at some meeting years ago, and we had a break at the meeting, and I went for a walk, and I noticed a grave site, and I noticed that when I went over there, the grave wasn't in the ground; it was raised on a platform, and there was a little compartment where you could offer tobacco, I think, and other items you wish to. Is that kind of? I know they were practicing it down there. Not sure if Victor may elaborate on that. If they're still doing it down there. But I think that's the old way of doing it. That goes back pre-contact, I would think. I don't know. I'm not certain. Are you aware of anything like that happening, Victor, in our area? So look out. No, eh?
No, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
I've seen those little gates and the little structure over the gravesite up north in my travels when I worked for Wawate.
Yeah.
I've seen that a few times, but I've never seen what you're talking about.
Yeah, there might have been just one instance. There was just one grave that I noticed in Kenora area years ago.
All right. So, okay, we'll just go on to the next one. Engagement of community groups to raise awareness of the efforts and issues of truth and reconciliation. Anybody want to take the lead on updating us about that, or?
I think that one time Lynn and I were talking about going over to, visit the senior center. It never actually happened, and then COVID happened, and so we can't do much of that sort of thing. Yeah, but I'm going to be raising at the Kenora District Municipal Association that I attend, which is representative of each of the municipalities. I'm going to be raising the idea of every community forming a committee such as this to sort out some of the problems that are arising between the First Nations and the non-First Nations. The resentment. There's resentment from people for changing the name of Colonization Road, and we should be thinking, and I'm going to raise that at our Kenora Municipal Association, and that we're finding it's working very well here, and that is something they might consider adopting.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the high school, the naming of the high school, I think that was very controversial as well. There was a lot of tension between First Nations and the municipal residents that were there.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me at the end of the day, there was a compromise, and I don't know if there's still friction there, Mayor. Do you know, or is it everybody would they accept the name? Or?
I think that there are, let's call them royalists, who will always want names like Queen Elizabeth to stay, or those royal names, and there's not much you can do to persuade them otherwise. But I think it's a relatively small sector. I don't hear of anything except positivity regarding the high school and the high school name. I think the process worked, and it was an inclusive process, and I think the people who are central to the decision, made the decision, the students. So no issues here, Chief.
All right.
So can I ask a question?
Irene? Yes.
So in terms of community groups, what, so Joyce, you mentioned the seniors activity center, but you know, and we've also talked about the Nishnabegamic Friendship Center, but what other groups were initially when that box was made on the work plan? What other kinds of groups was the committee thinking of? To raise awareness with.
I think you're getting your answer with the silence. I don't know that there are any other groups that were being thought of at the time. I think you got your answer, Aileen.
Yeah, so
Again.
so then if we haven't thought of them up till now, then what could we suggest? Like the schools, the churches, the various tribal councils,
Local businesses.
local businesses, yeah. The police.
Yes, I wonder you know, we used to have the Sioux Lookout Anti-Racism Committee, and Aileen and Joyce, you know a lot more about that than I do, and I'm not sure about Chief Cole and others, but just following current affairs, a lot of coming out of both the United States and Canada in terms of whether it be Black Lives Matter or racism, and the expression that I'm hearing quite often is along the lines of, it's not just enough to say you're not a racist, you have to be actively anti-racist. So it harkens back to the Anti-Racism Committee in a sense. I don't know if there's something we can do focused around that or not. I know you're talking about specific groups that we can talk to, Aileen, but it's just that I hear that quite often now, and it makes me wonder, well, all right, so what would we do? What could we do to be actively anti-racist?
Yeah, and I actually had a conversation with Garnet a couple of weeks ago. We ended up saying, because I think it was round about the time of, you know, the weekend, you know, the day to end racism, International Day to End Racism, or discrimination, I think, racial discrimination. And we ended up saying, maybe we need something equivalent to the Anti-Racism Committee again, you know, and remembering the multicultural events that we had during that week in March, and you know that we're kind of missing them, and you know maybe there's still some need to be doing that kind of awareness and education.
This is related, unrelated. A gentleman from the growing Muslim community in Sioux Lookout contacted me some weeks ago, and Aileen's aware of this, and I'm not sure exactly how far it's gone. COVID has sort of put dampers on everything. They were looking, I think he estimated the number of Muslims now to be in the range of 30 to 40 in Sioux Lookout, and they were looking for a place to worship. And dare I say that United Church came up again. It always comes up. You've got money to hand out and your facilities available to everybody. It's wonderful. But it came up, and you might be able to, but he was also looking at forming a committee. It wasn't an anti-racism committee. It was more a pro. He was sort of targeting the international, the growing international community that we're having in Sioux Lookout, to try and bring them together and celebrate through feasts and multicultural feasts, which harkens back in a way to the Anti-Racism Committee as well, the kind of thing that they did. Many of I think the activities celebrated cultures through food and feasts and get-togethers that way. So maybe what's old is new again, I'm not sure.
So they are actually they started meeting at St. Andrews on a Friday at lunchtime.
Sorry, your audio was a bit low there. What did you say? Can you
The Muslim community is meeting now on Fridays at St. Andrews.
So they are now meeting at St. Andrews on Fridays?
Now I don't know.
Wonderful.
I'm not sure if they met last Friday, because of the current lockdown, but they did meet and are very happy, and yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
So the Truth and Reconciliation should not only address racism, but celebrate diversity. I guess that's what it is. That's the term. Diversity also includes including the LGBTQ plus two spirit, whatever. I don't know what the acronym is anymore, but celebrating the people that belong to that group as well. Yeah, it could be a positive, something positive that can be done through this committee.
Maybe instead of anti-racism, it should be pro-diversity committee. The pro,
Yeah.
that could be the new take on it. Something
Yeah,
positive.
something like that.
Positive.
Yeah, Mario.
I was just going to add that best way to beat racism in my mind is for interaction. We get to know each other. So I was wondering, and maybe it's a bad time because I don't know what the Blueberry Committee is doing. Maybe the municipality can work closer with the Blueberry Committee and promote more cultural events to bring us all together. And by doing so, that may bring us together. Exactly that. Just a suggestion.
I remember Darlene.
Mm-hmm.
She was dressed up as Granny one time. Granny.
Yeah.
From the Beverly Hillbillies, and
Yeah.
she really looked to me. I had to take a double take, and is that really Granny? Or it was actually Darlene.
Yeah.
And we're having the batting bake off.
Yeah. And I had somebody
She's younger
gave
than
us
that now, though.
somebody gave us a BB gun to use as a prop, and I guess it was an actual working BB gun, and it even had the BBs in it. I didn't even know that. Oh my God. And I had it pointed right to the police officer at the time. So glad I didn't pull the trigger. Oh my goodness. But anyway, yeah. So the Blueberry Committee, that's another, yeah, that's who, I don't know who runs that, Chamber of Commerce or somebody.
Michelle could probably say the Blueberry Committee is an independent. We support it in different ways.
Yeah.
But just to Mario's point, the municipalities got smaller since you were here. We don't have. I mean, we don't have right now. We don't have a recreation manager or a parks and culture manager. It's pretty thin. I think Michelle's looking to get a recreation manager, but Michelle, you can comment on how the Blueberry Committee is organized.
Yeah, the Blueberry Committee is its own committee, but they do work in concert with the chamber as well. But a lot of the activities that they do is they have different organizations put on events. So if we were to work with them and want to do a cultural event, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to have it within the Blueberry Festival. Excuse me. They'd be more than willing to have that as an extra event as part of the Blueberry Festival, but it would take somebody to organize it.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know that would be appropriate, given that we have no idea where we're going with COVID, but
my guess is they're probably planning ahead for
next year.
Virtual events again, and not in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we do have a big day here as well. It's usually a Treaty Day, and we all know the saying that we're all treaty people. And we invited the mayor one time and did a treaty day reenactment. And I think Victor was there. He had the film going, and he had the top hat, and you had to dress up in that era. The chief, the mayor showed up, and we all dressed up like in the 1800s style. And the canoes came paddling around the corner, and our CMP officer was there. The guy with a bunch of money came off the boat, and those guy kind of thing. I think it can work both ways as well. Blueberry Festival, Treaty Day. You can have residents from Lookout, the Muslims, whoever wants to go to Lac Seul to witness culture and our culture. They can do that. Feast and talk to people like Victor or elders that know the culture. And I think that would create a lot of good atmosphere for learning and interacting with each other. And of course, the big question back here is COVID. I mean, it's really put a damper on everything.
To add to Mario's point there too, I think it's a very good idea because I know when I was on the anti-racism committee, I had put together a proposal, and it was to have different cultural groups come together to highlight some of their own, I guess, parts of their culture that they're proud of, or to display it in some way, somewhat similar to how Winnipeg has that what's that festival called?
Folklorama.
Folklorama, yeah, something similar to that. But I wanted to do that every 1 or 2 weeks, like focus on a specific group. So what I did was I kicked it off, and I had a spaghetti dinner where people bought tickets, and the idea was to raise money for the anti-racism committee. So we sold a bunch of tickets for spaghetti dinner, and we had the dinner inside the Sioux Mountain School, and along the outside of the edge of the gymnasium is where we had a bunch of different booths. We had artisans, crafters, all sorts of different things, dancers, and people, Aboriginal people that were participating in doing different things and showing their skill, I guess, and showing whatever else they had to contribute. And then after the supper was done, on the stage, we had an elder tell a couple of legends, and then that was the end of the night. And I was really hoping that other people would grab onto that and run with it, but I was the only one that did that, I guess. So it was nice to see it and have that, and that reminded me when Mario mentioned that about how easy that could have been done. It's not that hard. We're getting different larger groups of people. We have a larger Filipino community now, and we're getting different groups of people that we have an Italian community in town here too. There's a lot of different things that people could bring forth and display, and make you understand or help you to understand and be part of more learned about their cultural backgrounds too. That's what the whole idea was about behind that. Plus, that raising money for the anti-racism committee at the time, anyways.
Wouldn't be hard to do a multicultural feast in a year or so. That's a great way. The places are, whenever we've had it, they've been absolutely packed, and people have loved them. And that might be a very simple way of doing something.
Yeah,
feast,
I've been to those too, but I wanted to really highlight one culture at a time, so they have more of an opportunity to be able to show off different parts of their culture. And I thought that was really, I was really looking forward to different things that other groups would bring forward and do. But like I said, nobody else did anything. So I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. I think that kind of thing takes so much more organizing, and you need, as you say, you need somebody to take it by the bull by the horns and just do it, and champion it. But I was suggesting the feast is just a fairly simple, maybe a first step. And then I like that idea of a folklorama, Sioux Lookout folklorama. But that would take a lot more organizing. But hey, let's maybe we should go for it, Victor. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun.
How about we sort of try planning it for, obviously probably not this year because we'll probably still be in lockdown of some kind, but for the following year. And you know, try and, you know, maybe aim for 4 different groups to begin with, and you know, try to get some buy-in from a few different groups. And we've got a year and a half to, work on it. I think that would be great.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yes, Michelle?
Just if the committee recalls, we've had discussions about this in previous meetings. And one of the things we did talk about is having a community feast as part of the memorialization next year. And hopefully, you know, we will be able to get together by 2022 and plan it for sometime in June of 2022. And so that's what staff are kind of looking at, is to have a community feast after the memorialization and include all cultures in our community, because there are people that are buried there that come from all different cultures. So we thought maybe it would be a good idea to have that community feast at that time. I know it's a little bit different than what you're saying, Victor, but I like the idea of having it in separate segments, and that's something that we can work towards. I think that we should focus though on some sort of community feast, like a big one for next year with the memorialization event, and then from there perhaps work towards what you were saying, because I think that's a great idea.
Okay, that's good. Good discussion. Okay. I think we'll just move on though to the subcommittee. Okay, to review, we did the Umferville Park for their new name. And then the workshop, Returning to Spirit. We know the funding was turned down. And Lynn kind of gave us a little bit of an update on what she's trying to do from her workplace. So I hope, I guess it might happen in the future yet. So we can't say that it's not going to happen. Okay.
Through you, Chair Darlene, what I'll do is say that the just in the notations that the funding was denied, but we'll leave it on the work plan for next year and reapply and see if we can't find funding for it, because I think it's an important initiative that Lynn Marie has brought up and would benefit a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's about it for the updates from the various projects. Are there any other updates? Yes, Eileen?
What about, I noticed in the minutes that we talked about flagpoles, and we were going to get some estimates of what a new flagpole or 2 would cost.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Aileen. I was hoping somebody would bring it up under business arising, and I forgot all about it to mention it. So we haven't got an estimate yet on the flagpoles, but that we will get that for next meeting so that we can have that discussion as far as fundraising initiatives.
Next meeting. All right. Now for, I guess we'll just move on to 8C, which is the next steps for the work plan. Eileen, it has your name on it.
Well, I think we just did that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same as
Yeah.
8B. Okay. And then I guess that's it. We have, unless somebody has anything else to add to this meeting, I guess. Yes, can't hear you, Chief.
Question about flagpoles. Sometimes there's these buildings that are decommissioned, government buildings. Is there any around? I'm not sure in the area that we can go look at and see if this building is not in use anymore, what do they do with the flagpoles? Do they
Okay.
take them to the dumper? I'm not sure.
Eileen has a,
Well, I was noticing, I was driving around looking to see what organizations had lowered their flags to half-mast. And I noticed there is a flagpole at the QE that doesn't have a flag on it.
okay.
So we could just go along, dig it up in the middle of the night and transplant it someplace else.
It won't be there in the morning.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Welsh Rebellion all over again.
And just
You-
see you
you're
guys
leaving
running
it
down the
for-
street with a big flagpole. Yeah. I can follow up with the school board on that flagpole.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. Okay. Anybody else need to say anything? Okay, so I guess we'll move on to number 9, May 17th is the next meeting date on Zoom. I don't know what day the 17th is. Is that on a Monday, I guess? I'm assuming. Okay, so that's the next meeting. And shall we have a motion to adjourn? Anybody want to move it and second it? Chief Bull will move. Second. Joyce will second it. Okay, so we'll see you all at the next meeting in May.
Good.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Good evening.